left. From a legal perspective, was it in order for an IEBC without commissioners to clear Professor Kithure Kindiki?
First, actually, I need to clarify something.
Okay.
From where the law stands, the deputy president remains Rigathi Gachagua to the extent that the resolution of the Senate was stopped. Implementation was stopped by the conservatory orders that have been issued. I've had people take sides, but the law is the law. There's a process for somebody to assume office of the deputy president, and there's a process for somebody to leave that office. And to the extent that that process has not been concluded or has been stayed, then that person remains in office. The politics of whether he exercises administrative powers, that is beyond us for sure, because it is obvious that he doesn't have the instruments now and facilitation now to discharge the functions of that office, but he remains the deputy president until the orders expire or are lifted, and until then Professor Kindiki is sworn in. Two, actually, we don't have a constitutional crisis in Kenya. We have a political crisis.
Okay.
And importantly, the political crisis is being used in a positive way, in my view, to test the constitution, which provides process and stages for impeaching president and deputy president. And the fact that everyone can predict where we are going, which court we are in, and next until it gets to Supreme Court is a good thing. So impeachment of Mr. Gachagua may obviously be causing a lot of fatigue. For obvious reasons, it has gone for too long, but it is simply the constitution being followed, and the constitution is working. Obviously, there are big questions about clearances that a candidate needs to have to be nominated as a deputy president, and therefore be processed, particularly the process of resignation, impeachment, or death. So there are clear questions that will have to be tested in court, whether, for example, Professor Kindiki is qualified to be a member of parliament. IEBC apparently has cleared him. Whether he is a member of a political party, that is the law and our Elections Act. What we know for sure is that state and public officers holding cabinet position, principal secretary position should not be members of political parties, or at least should not be the governing council of political parties. And there are several other requirements that he seems to have obtained that are questionable to the extent that the elections law outlaw them when you are serving actively as a state officer, as a public officer, and it is true that he's still serving as a cabinet secretary for Interior. Another logical question is whether those are significant provisions of the law, particularly because are we living in utopia that people that have stature of cabinet secretaries or even teachers, public officers, are not politically aligned? So was it necessary? What was the jurisprudential reason for having for that requirement that people should not be members of political parties, when we know for a fact that until he became CS, he was a senator for Tharaka Nithi, and obviously he had political leanings, and we all do one way or the other. So I think the court will have to look at all these issues, and somebody has actually petitioned on that, and test them, whether there are such significant requirements or they are just other, subsidiary requirements that were introduced perhaps to lock out other people. There are several laws in Kenya that are introduced discriminatorily to lock out other people based on politics of the moment. But look, that is why we have the courts, and that is why the courts should take time to decide all these issues being raised very impartially, very professionally, but also in a manner that everyone perceives to be independent, because that is really the argument I've seen in court the whole day. They were just going around, but the fact is they were creating perception of lack of independence in the bench as presently constituted, not their professionalism. perception of lack of independence. And I think that will be cleared one way or the other tomorrow, next week. And then we'll have to test all these issues that you've asked about.
Okay.